Hi everybody. Just one quick note that I forgot to mention, and so I'm going to tell you now, is that I do have a copy of this score and my notes available for you if you have interest, if you want to see them. I have them available in PDF format, so send me an email. You can get my email from my channel information. Down at the bottom of it you can obtain my email address, and just send me an email if you want, if you have interest in it, and I would be happy to provide you with a copy of this score and my notes so that you can try this out for yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about writing super sax arrangements for the classical guitar, or any guitar for that matter. What you've just been listening to was an arrangement of Satin Doll by Duke Ellington, and I wrote that arrangement. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. So the first thing you do is you look at the melody for the song that you want to arrange as a super sax harmonization. And there's a couple of very simple rules that you have to follow. The first is, if the note in the melody is in the chord, then you harmonize from the melody note down all the notes in the chord, up to 4 guitar parts. If the melody note is not a member of the chord, you harmonize the whole spot as a diminished 7 chord. It's that simple. So, first thing you do to make this happen is you grab a pad of paper, like the one that I'm going to show you right over here, and to make it easier to do, you write out all of the chords in the song, and you're going to want to leave some space because you're going to want to write notes underneath each chord. So in the song Satin Doll, for example, the first 2 measures are D minor 7 to G7, and then D minor 7 to G7 again. And so what you do is you write on your paper D-7 for D minor 7, and then a G7. And what you do is you just spell out that chord for your reference. You're making a set of notes that you can use to go back and fill these notes in on the paper and on the manuscript that you're writing. And so D7 is going to be D, F, A, C. So what I like to do is, and what I did in the notes that you're looking at, is I actually wrote the chord out on the staff, and then underneath of it I wrote in just plain old English D, F, A, C. That way I could read it really quickly. And then I went on and did exactly the same thing for the G7 chord. So I wrote on the musical staff the G7 chord, which is spelled G, B, D, F. And so what I did, then I wrote down below it, I wrote G, B, D, F. And I went and I repeated this process for all of the chords in the song, or in my case in the first 8 measures of the song, because that's all that I did was the first 8 measures for the demonstration. And then you can go back and use that to fill in the harmonizations for each note in the melody. What a super sax melody arrangement is that every note in the melody is harmonized. And so in our case, every guitar plays 1 note of the harmonization for every note in the melody. So it's important to have this map of notes out so that we can go in and say guitar part 1 is the melody, guitar part 2 is the next note that spells out the chord, guitar 3 is the one below that spells out the note in the chord, guitar 4 is the note below that spells out the chord. Okay. The other trick that we need to use is that if the note is not in the chord, so for example the second note in the piece is a G. And if we look at our notes, we're playing against a D minor 7 chord, which is spelled D, F, A, C. So there is no G in that D minor 7 chord. What it is it turns out to be a color note in the melody. But that means we need to harmonize that G as a diminished chord. So we also, if you look down towards the bottom of my notes, you'll see that I spelled out all 3 possible fully diminished 7th chords. There's only 3. And the reason is because a diminished 7 chord is a stack of minor thirds. And they're invertible. In fact, they all sound exactly the same no matter what inversion you play them in. No matter what order you stack those notes in, they sound the same. And so if we think about it, there are 12 notes in the chromatic scale, and each fully diminished 7th chord has 4 notes in it, and so 4 times 3 is 12, and so there are only 3 possible fully diminished 7th chords. So you can see down at the bottom of my notes that I wrote out all 3 of them for your reference. And we're going to use that as sort of our cheat sheet when we go in and fill in those chords. And so in this case, we voiced a fully diminished 7th chord below that G, and then we moved on to the next melody note, which is an A again. And then, A is in the D minor 7 chord. So we just voiced that down below it. And basically we repeat this process through the whole song. And then you get this really cool sounding melody that we call a super sax. If you look at the arrangement that I've provided, you can see that I've circled in green on the score, like all of these spots where I voiced a fully diminished 7th chord. So there you go. That's the method for writing super sax arrangements. First, you look at the melody. Well, no. First, you're going to write down all of the chords, and then you're going to write out the notes in the chords for your reference. Next, you're going to identify each note in the melody, if it's a note in that chord or not. If it's a note in the chord, you simply take your notes and you spell out the chord below the melody note. If it's not a note in the chord, then you voice a fully diminished 7th chord underneath of it. Well, I know that was a little bit complicated to explain today. It sounds really cool. It's actually much easier to do than it is to tell you about it. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. If you enjoy this content, let me know. If you have suggestions for how I can improve this content, let me know. But it's a really cool technique, and I hope to try it. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you very much.